New Year's Eve is supposed to feel hopeful. It's the one night where people believe nothing bad should happen, where the noise, the lights, and the countdown make everything feel safe. But for some people, the moment the clock hits midnight is when things go wrong. The stories you're about to hear are all said to be true. Real experiences from people who expected to welcome a new year and instead found themselves trapped in moments they still can't explain. From strange sounds heard during the final countdown, to phone calls that came just seconds before the year ended, to celebrations that masked something far more disturbing. These aren't stories about bad luck or coincidence. They're about moments where the night felt off, where the noise outside couldn't drown out the feeling that something wasn't right. So before you listen, take a second. Check the time. Notice how quiet things feel between the sounds. Because for the people in these stories, the scariest part wasn't what happened after midnight. It was what happened just before the year ended. I spent that New Year's Eve alone. Not by choice exactly. My plans had fallen apart last minute, and I figured it wasn't a big deal. I ordered food, put on some background noise from the TV, and planned to just stay up until midnight before going to sleep. Outside, the neighborhood was loud. People shouting, music playing, fireworks popping every few minutes. It made the house feel less lonely. Around 11:50 p.m., I muted the TV and checked my phone. 10 minutes left. I remember thinking I'd just stand in the living room and let the countdown play on one of the local channels. That's when I heard the first voice. It wasn't loud. It wasn't coming from the TV. It came from outside my front door. 10. I froze. At first, I thought someone was standing on the sidewalk, counting down early with friends. That wouldn't have been strange. But then I heard it again. 9. The voice was close. Too close. It sounded like it was right on my porch. I walked slowly toward the door and looked through the peephole. The porch light was on. The steps were empty. No shadows. No movement. 8. The voice was clearer now, steady and calm, like someone reading off a list. I checked my phone. 11:52 p.m. Whatever was counting wasn't matching the time. 7. I stepped back from the door, my heart starting to race. The noise outside, the music, the fireworks, suddenly felt distant, like it was happening somewhere far away. 6. And that's when I realized something that made my stomach drop. There was only one voice, and it wasn't coming from the street. It was coming from right outside my door. I stood there staring at the door, barely breathing, trying to convince myself I was misunderstanding what I was hearing. The neighborhood was still alive outside, laughter drifting through the air, fireworks popping in the distance, but none of it sounded close anymore. It felt like my house had been separated from everything else. 5. The voice didn't rush. It didn't hesitate. It counted like it had all the time in the world. I backed away slowly and grabbed my phone. My screen lit up the living room just enough to make the shadows feel sharper. 11:53 p.m. Whatever was outside wasn't counting down to midnight. I considered calling someone, anyone, but I didn't even know what I'd say. Hey, there's a voice counting outside my door didn't sound real, even in my own head. 4. The sound was clearer now, like whoever was speaking had leaned closer to the door. I could hear the faint echo of breath between each number. I forced myself to look through the peephole again. Still nothing. No shoes, no shadows, no movement. But the sound didn't come from the street anymore. It didn't even sound like it was outside. It sounded like it was coming from the other side of the door itself. 3. My hand hovered over the deadbolt. I didn't know why, but some instinct screamed at me not to open it. I told myself it was probably someone messing around, some drunk neighbor playing a stupid prank. But the voice didn't sound drunk. It sounded focused. 2. My phone buzzed in my hand. A notification popped up. A text message from an unknown number. Almost time. My chest tightened so hard it felt painful. I hadn't given my number to anyone in weeks. I typed back without thinking. Who is this? The reply came instantly. You don't want to start the year alone. I dropped the phone like it burned my hand. Outside, fireworks exploded loudly somewhere down the street, followed by cheers and laughter. The contrast made the quiet at my door feel even worse. 1. The word was whispered now, close enough that I could hear it scrape slightly against the wood. I backed into the living room, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. I expected the next sound to be a knock, or the door handle rattling. Instead, there was silence. No voice, no movement. Just the distant sound of people celebrating as the final seconds of the year ticked away. Then, right as my phone clock flipped to 11:59 p.m., I heard something on the other side of the door. Not knocking, not speaking, breathing. Slow, deep, waiting. The breathing on the other side of the door was slow and deliberate. Like whoever was there wasn't struggling for air. They were savoring it. I stood frozen in the living room, staring at the front door as my phone vibrated again in my hand. Another message. Open it before midnight. My eyes snapped to the clock on the TV. 11:59:18. The distant fireworks outside grew louder, people shouting and cheering as the final seconds of the year approached. The sound should have been comforting. Instead, it made everything worse. The breathing stopped. Then came a knock. Not loud, not aggressive. 3 soft taps. The door handle twitched, just slightly. My phone buzzed again. You don't want to miss it. The porch light suddenly turned on, flooding the entryway with harsh yellow light. I rushed forward and looked through the peephole. Someone was standing there now. A man. He looked normal at first. Winter coat, gloves, head lowered like he was staring at the welcome mat. But his feet weren't touching the ground. They hovered just an inch above the porch. The clock ticked louder in my ears. 11:59:40. The man slowly raised his head. His face was pale and stretched tight, eyes wide and unblinking, lips pulled into a smile that looked painful to hold. When he spoke, his voice didn't come from his mouth. It came from everywhere. "Let me in," it said softly. "I've been counting with you." The fireworks outside exploded non-stop now. 11:59:50. The man leaned closer to the door, his forehead pressing gently against the wood. I could see the grain of the door flex inward. My phone vibrated one last time. If you're alone when it changes, you stay alone. The countdown outside began again. Not from him, from inside my house. 10. The voice came from behind me. I spun around, my heart slamming against my ribs. No one was there. 5. The lights flickered violently. 3. The front door handle twisted hard. 2. The man outside slammed his palm against the door. 1. The clock hit 12 o'clock, and every sound stopped at once. When the clock hit midnight, the house went completely silent. No fireworks, no cheering, no wind. Just silence so heavy it made my ears ring. The porch light outside shut off on its own, plunging the entryway into darkness. I stood there shaking, waiting for something to happen. Another knock, another voice, but nothing came. Slowly, I walked toward the door and looked through the peephole one last time. The porch was empty. No man, no footprints, no sign anyone had ever been there. Relief washed over me so suddenly my legs nearly gave out. I locked the door again, double-checked every window, and stayed up until the sun started to come up. Eventually, exhaustion won. The next morning felt normal, too normal. My phone buzzed around noon. A message notification from an unknown number. You made it. I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. I blocked the number immediately. Later that day, I noticed something else. My wall calendar still showed December 31st. I flipped the page. January 1st was already marked. In my handwriting. I don't remember writing anything, but scribbled across the date, over and over again, were the same words. Don't open the door next year. That was 3 years ago. Every New Year's Eve since then, just before midnight, my phone buzzes once. No number, no notification sound, just a vibration. And no matter where I am, I always hear someone start counting, right outside the door. I was working the night shift that New Year's Eve, sitting alone in my apartment with nothing but a half-empty drink and the TV playing some countdown special I wasn't really watching. I'd gotten off work late, so I wasn't in the mood to go out. I figured I'd just stay up until midnight, send a few texts, and call it a night. Around 11:56 p.m., my phone rang. I looked at the screen and frowned. Unknown number. Normally I wouldn't have answered, but something about the timing felt strange. Like whoever was calling knew exactly when to do it. I hesitated for a second, then picked up. Hello? For a moment there was nothing but static. Then someone breathed into the phone. Not heavily, not frantically, just slow, steady breathing, like they were holding the phone close to their mouth. "Can I help you?" I asked, already feeling uneasy. The breathing stopped. A voice finally spoke. Low, calm, and oddly familiar. "You're staying in tonight," it said. It wasn't a question. I pulled the phone away from my ear and checked the screen again. Still no number, no location. "Who is this?" I asked. The voice chuckled softly. "You don't remember," it said. "But that's okay. There's still time." I glanced at the TV. 11:57 p.m. The countdown clock flashed brightly, cheerful and loud, completely out of place with the cold feeling spreading through my chest. "Time for what?" I asked. There was a pause. Then the voice said something that made my stomach drop. "For the last call." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, heart pounding, waiting for it to ring again. It didn't, but I had the sudden, overwhelming feeling that it would. For a few seconds, I just stared at my phone, waiting for it to ring again. The screen stayed dark. I told myself it was probably some drunk wrong number, maybe someone messing around before midnight. Still, the way the caller spoke, calm, confident, didn't sound like a prank. I checked the time again. 11:57 p.m. The TV volume suddenly felt too loud. Cheers and music echoed through the apartment, clashing with the quiet tension that had settled in my chest. I muted it and sat there listening to the hum of the heater and the distant sound of fireworks outside. My phone buzzed. Not a call, a voicemail notification. I frowned. I hadn't missed a call. I opened it. The voicemail was exactly 12 seconds long. No greeting, no background noise, just breathing, slow, measured. At the very end, a voice whispered, 2 minutes. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. I deleted the voicemail immediately, but the notification didn't disappear. It stayed there, frozen on my screen. My phone rang again. Same unknown number. This time I didn't answer right away. I let it ring while I watched the seconds tick closer to midnight. When it stopped, I felt a brief wave of relief. Then the call came back instantly. I answered. "You shouldn't ignore it," the voice said. "This is important." "What do you want?" I snapped, my voice shaking despite myself. There was a faint clicking sound on the other end, like someone tapping a fingernail against plastic. "I want you to listen," the voice replied. "People miss things at the end of the year. Regrets. Loose ends." "I don't know you," I said. "You do," it answered. "Just not from this year." I looked at the TV again. 11:58 p.m. Outside, fireworks were starting to go off more frequently now. The sound leaked through the windows, sharp and sudden. The voice on the phone didn't pause. "This is the last call," it said. "After midnight, the line closes." My heart started racing. "What happens if I hang up?" There was a short pause, then a quiet laugh. "You already did," the voice said. The call ended. At the exact same moment, my apartment lights flickered. Once, twice. My phone buzzed again. A new voicemail. I didn't open it. I already knew what it would say. I backed away from the windows, suddenly afraid of what I might see reflected in the glass. My hands were slick with sweat, and my mouth felt dry. Then my phone rang one last time. Same number, same timing. The TV clock changed to 11:59 p.m., and I realized something that made my stomach drop. The voice hadn't been calling from outside my apartment. It was coming from somewhere much closer. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The apartment felt smaller now, like the walls had shifted inward without me noticing. I stood there staring at my phone, half expecting it to start ringing again on its own. Then I heard it. A phone ringing, not from my hand, from somewhere inside the apartment. I turned slowly toward the hallway. The sound was faint, but unmistakable. The same default ringtone, echoing softly from the bedroom. My stomach dropped. I hadn't left any other phone back there. I lived alone. There shouldn't have been any sound coming from that room at all. The ringing stopped. My phone buzzed in my hand at the same time. A text message from the unknown number. "You don't need the phone anymore." The bedroom light flicked on. I hadn't touched the switch. Against every instinct I had, I walked down the hallway. Each step felt heavy, like I was moving through thick air. The closer I got, the colder it felt. Not freezing, just empty. The bedroom door was open. On my bed sat a phone. Not mine. It looked older, scratched, the screen glowing dimly. I recognized it instantly, even though I hadn't seen it in years. It was my old phone, the one I'd lost 3 New Year's Eves ago after a party I barely remembered. The screen lit up. Incoming call, unknown. Behind me, My own phone started vibrating violently. The TV in the living room began counting down loudly. 10! The phone on the bed answered itself. The voice came through the speaker, clearer than ever. You didn't finish the call last time. The temperature dropped sharply. My breath fogged in the air. The phone in my hand buzzed again with another message. This year counts. The countdown echoed through the apartment. 5! The bedroom door slammed shut behind me. I spun around, yanking at the handle. Locked. The phone on the bed rang again, louder now, vibrating hard enough to rattle the mattress. 3! The voice spoke directly from behind me, not from the phone. You stayed, it whispered. Good. 2! The lights flickered violently, plunging the room into darkness and back again. 1! Every screen in the apartment went black at the same time. The call connected, and everything went silent. I woke up on my bedroom floor just after sunrise. My head was pounding, and my phone was lying face down beside me, completely dead. No power, no response. For a moment, I convinced myself I'd passed out from stress or exhaustion. Then I checked the time. January 1st. The TV was off. The lights were normal. The apartment felt empty again. I picked up my phone and charged it. As soon as it turned on, a notification appeared. One new voicemail, timestamp, 11:59 p.m. My hands shook as I pressed play. It was my voice, calm, tired. I'm staying, it said softly. I don't want to miss it again. The voicemail ended with a quiet click, like a call being disconnected. I deleted it immediately. I changed my number that same week. I moved apartments a month later. I stopped answering unknown calls entirely. But every New Year's Eve since then, at exactly 11:59 p.m., my phone buzzes once. No call, no message, just a single vibration. And for the last 3 years, I've noticed the same thing when midnight passes. My call log shows a completed call, duration 0001, from a number that doesn't exist. I was at a New Year's Eve party when it happened. Not a huge one, just a small get-together at a friend's house on the edge of town. There were maybe 10 of us, most standing outside in the backyard with drinks, waiting for midnight. By 11:55 p.m., fireworks had already started going off in the distance. Sharp cracks, low booms, the sky lighting up every few seconds. It felt normal, festive. That's why it took me a moment to notice something was off. One of the sounds didn't echo like the others. Fireworks usually pop and fade. These didn't fade. They were duller, heavier, and they kept coming from the same direction, somewhere past the tree line behind the house. I mentioned it to the guy standing next to me, joking that someone must be setting off illegal fireworks early. He didn't laugh. He frowned and said, "Those aren't fireworks." I asked him what he meant. He didn't answer right away. He just listened, eyes fixed on the dark trees beyond the fence. Another loud bang echoed through the night, then another, each one spaced evenly apart, too evenly. The talking around us slowly died down as other people started noticing it too. Someone turned down the music. A few people pulled out their phones, pointing the cameras toward the trees. That's when the sound changed. It wasn't coming from far away anymore. It was closer, and it wasn't above us in the sky. It was coming from the ground, right behind the house. At first, everyone tried to laugh it off. Someone joked that maybe a neighbor was setting off fireworks in their backyard instead of the street. Another person said it might be construction noise echoing weirdly through the trees. But no one sounded convinced. Not after the next bang shook the ground beneath our feet. It wasn't loud like an explosion. It was heavy, dense. You could feel it in your chest more than hear it in your ears. The music was turned off completely now. All we could hear were distant fireworks from town, and that other sound coming from behind the house. Bang! A pause. Bang! Each one spaced almost exactly the same amount of time apart. I noticed the host of the party, my friend Mark, had gone quiet. He stood near the back door, staring at the dark tree line with his phone pressed to his ear. His face had gone pale. When he hung up, someone asked what was wrong. "There's no one back there," he said. "I just called my neighbor. They don't hear anything." Another bang echoed, closer now. It sounded like it came from the edge of the yard. A couple of people stepped closer to the fence, peering through the wooden slats into the trees. I stayed back. Something about the rhythm of the sound made my stomach twist, Like whatever was making it didn't care if we heard it. Then the smell hit us. Sharp, metallic. Someone near the fence gagged and stepped back, covering their nose. "Do you smell that?" Before anyone could answer, a loud crack split the air, closer than all the others. Several people screamed. I felt the vibration run up through my legs. That one didn't sound like fireworks at all. That sounded like something hitting something else. Hard. Mark grabbed a flashlight from inside the house and shined it toward the tree line. The beam cut through the darkness just enough to show the edge of the woods. Nothing moved, but the sound came again. This time, there was no echo, just a dull, final thud. Silence followed. Not even fireworks. Everyone froze. Then, from somewhere deep in the trees, we heard something else. Movement. Branches snapping. Leaves crunching. Heavy footsteps. They weren't rushing. They were coming straight toward the fence. Someone whispered, "That's not a person." The flashlight beam shook as Mark backed away. The footsteps stopped just on the other side of the fence, so close we could hear breathing, slow, deep. Then a voice spoke, not shouting, not whispering, just loud enough for all of us to hear. "Happy New Year." The words Happy New Year didn't sound right. They weren't slurred like someone drunk. They weren't excited. They were flat, like someone repeating a phrase they'd heard but never used before. Nobody spoke. Nobody laughed. We all stood there frozen, staring at the fence as the flashlight beam shook in Mark's hands. The breathing on the other side was slow and heavy, loud enough now that we could all hear it clearly. Then the fence moved. Not violently, not suddenly. It bent inward slightly, boards creaking under pressure, like something was leaning its weight against it. Someone screamed. That broke whatever spell we were under. People started backing toward the house, tripping over chairs and spilled drinks. Mark yelled for everyone to get inside. Before we could move far, the fence snapped. One of the wooden boards cracked and fell inward, hitting the ground with a dull thud. The flashlight beam swung wildly, catching movement just beyond the opening. Something stepped forward. At first, all I saw were legs, too long, bending strangely at the knees, moving slower than they should have. Then, the light caught its torso. It was wearing clothes. That was somehow the worst part. A dark jacket, torn and hanging off one shoulder. Pants soaked through at the bottom, dragging against the ground. But the body inside them didn't move like a person's. Its posture was wrong, hunched forward, head tilted at an angle like it was listening. Someone shouted, "What the hell is that?" The thing took another step. The smell hit us again, stronger now, metallic, like hot iron and something rotten mixed together. Another bang echoed through the yard, not from the sky, from the thing itself. It raised one arm, too long, joints bending the wrong way, and brought it down hard against the fence post. Bang! I finally understood. Those weren't fireworks. They were impacts. It was testing things, breaking them, practicing. The thing lifted its head slowly, and the flashlight caught its face. I won't describe it in detail. I don't want to. All I'll say is that it looked like someone who had once been human, and then forgotten how to keep pretending. Its mouth opened. When it spoke again, multiple voices came out at once, overlapping, slightly out of sync. "Count with us." Fireworks exploded in the distance, loud and bright, masking the sound of something heavy crashing through the rest of the fence. Mark screamed for everyone to run. I turned and sprinted toward the house as the first firework of midnight exploded overhead. Behind me, over the cheers and explosions, I heard the bang one last time, right inside the yard. I don't remember making it inside the house. I just remember the sound of fireworks exploding overhead as everyone ran, screaming, pushing through the back door all at once. The door slammed shut behind us. Someone locked it. Someone else turned off the lights. We stood there in the dark, packed into the living room, listening. Outside, the celebration continued like nothing was wrong. Cheers, laughter, countdowns echoing through the neighborhood. But behind the house, beyond the fence, there was only silence. No footsteps, no breathing, nothing. The police showed up about 20 minutes later after multiple neighbors reported disturbances. They searched the yard, the woods, even the surrounding streets. They found the broken fence. They found deep gouges in the frozen ground behind it, but they didn't find anything else. No tracks leading away, no footprints, no signs anyone had been there. The officers suggested maybe fireworks debris had damaged the fence. Maybe someone had panicked and imagined the rest. No one argued. The party ended immediately. People left in silence, some crying, some shaking too badly to drive. A week later, Mark told us something he hadn't shared that night. The neighbor whose yard backed up to the trees had reported strange noises earlier that evening, heavy impacts, coming from the woods, right around 11:50 p.m. Every New Year's Eve since then, when fireworks start going off, I listen carefully, because sometimes, beneath the pops and booms, I still hear a heavier sound, steady, measured, like something counting down, waiting for the noise to cover it again.